got rhythm, uke got rhythm, we got rhythm, who could ask for anything more?
We're all here to see Nicki and Craig. There they are. Have I spotlighted you? You are spotlighted.
Yeah, I did it already.
You've done all that. You've done all that. They do everything. And they're going to give us a workshop on songwriting with the uke, which sounds bloody exciting. So I think we're pretty well ready. Ready to go, Nicki and Craig, whenever you are.
Yeah, ready to go. Cool. Thank you. I'll get rid of the spotlight for you. So, okay,
Yes.
let's do it.
Doing a quick last minute tune because
So-
that's where we're at.
Yeah, we're going to start with a little strum along just to get a bit of groove in our system. And that's because there's lots of different ways to start writing a song. But with the ukulele, with this little groove machine, which if you've done Clawhammer or if you did Bruce's rhythm class or even if you saw Ollie grooving out on the bass before, nothing is more groovy than a ukulele. So we're going to start with we're going to just play kind of like a mashup of songs which have pretty much the same chords, but it's all about the right hand. We're going to keep changing the kind of rhythm and the groove, and we want you to get that. You can Z chord, which Bruce showed before, where you just kind of
Just lightly clasp your strings.
If you want to, or you can play the
you're
chords. You'll
tense.
pick it up pretty good.
Here we go.
And
You
then
need to write,
if you want
friend.
to, get up, use your hips.
I
do
recommend
dance.
just dance. Don't
Just
worry about
dance,
doing
yeah.
anything else other than grooving
Yeah,
and
really
just
feel the
getting your
groove.
right hand dancing along with you. Yeah? We're not going to do very complicated chords, C, F, and the occasional G7, but just, groove.
I
And
just want you to feel the groove because
Yeah.
it's going to be important later on. Okay,
That's right.
ready? But we're going to start on a weird beat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I got sunshine on a cloudy day. When it's cold outside, I got the month of May. Okay, let's change the groove up. Pineapple, pineapple, mango, pineapple, pineapple, mango, pineapple. Good, take it away, Nicki.
I'm getting ready. I'm searching for clarity. Starting with me. The chill in my bones tells me to do so. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see.
Let the midnight special shine a light on me. Let the midnight special shine a light on me. Hear the swing. Let the midnight special shine a light on me. Let the midnight special shine the ever-loving light on me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's get off the train, get into some reggae.
Don't
on
Yeah,
there.
got some moving happening after lunch. So, what was the point we were trying to
was the
demonstrate
point?
there?
The groove machine. That's what Nicki calls it.
Yeah. So, just with a bare minimum of chords and different styles of groove, we managed to cover a whole bunch of different genre of song, and that's kind of going to be the basis of how we progress today with looking at songwriting. So we it's a bit hard to see everyone, but we wanted to get a sense of how many how many chords people had at their disposal for doing this exercise. So there you all are in the gallery view. So give us a wave if you've got more than 10 chords in your arsenal and you can pretty much do a whole bunch of
Robin,
stuff.
yep.
Oh, yeah.
Dies all over it. Margaret, of course, and
All
Ollie,
the
and
super
Julie,
competent
and
players
Kerry.
are here.
Oh, Kerry's here. Hey, Kerry.
Yeah, fantastic. Well,
Aaron and
a
Gary's on
whole
board.
universe of songwriting awaits you.
Yeah.
So what about people who've got maybe between, say, 5 to 10 chords? You know, that's pretty much, you can play most of the songs in the canon.
We've got Mary Lou
Yeah,
and
5 to
Rachel
10, great.
and Vanessa. And
I think you're all very modest.
and I know if Rachel grabs the guitar from behind her, she'll have 1 million
1 million chords, that's right. Well, fabulous. And Bridget's
Bridget
there.
as well, yeah.
Well, guess what? A whole universe of songwriting awaits you. So what about those of us who are a bit more kind of new to the uke or even to songwriting? If you've got, say, 4 chords or fewer than that in your collection that you've got kind of down pat and comfortable?
Yeah. We've got Gillian and Beck as well.
Excellent. Well, guess what? A whole universe of songwriting awaits you because you only really need we're going to focus on mostly 2 chord kind of patterns today, and you can do a heap of stuff with that. So be ready, saddle up.
Yeah.
Now,
the reason we're going to go with groove first is because we're with the ukulele. But just to let you know, one of the ways that we think of songwriting is that there's kind of 4 ways in often.
4 doors.
4 doors in, and all of them are good. And so what we actually do is almost make a bucket for each of those elements and then bring them together when we collaborate. So the 4 elements are groove. We're going to start with groove today. Lyric. And then there's melody, which you might think of as melody and harmony together. So like the tune that you're singing. And then there's also song structure. Sometimes songs actually come out of a structure. So you would have heard Bruce Watson's beautiful Amazon song. That's a song where the structure's really kind of driven what he's gone on to do. And people start from each of these areas. But I think when you're songwriting with the uke, the advantage is that you can come in from groove. And it's a really nice way to come in. It can really give you it really kind of grounds you and makes you feel present.
Yeah. So I guess, one of the really common questions that people who are new to songwriting ask is, do you start with the lyrics or do you start with the music? Like, which is the way? And of course, we're just saying any way. Like, it depends on the song. It depends where your inspiration's coming from. And if you are coming in with, like, absolutely no preconceptions and no idea about where you want to start, well, groove is a great way to kind of not have to focus on any of those things, but let the instrument lead you into the practice. And that's the next thing, is that we think of songwriting as a practice. It is possible for a lightning bolt of inspiration to come out of the clear blue sky and hit you and, fill you up with an idea. Or as lovely Laura said to me once, ideas can be hovering around, just waiting to land for when you're ready. And I think that's a sign of someone who's really got a bit of a creative practice going, is that, as Craig was saying, he talked about buckets, but what he means is all these buckets of inspiration and ideas that you can dip into. And when you are writing regularly, when you're playing a lot, when you're practicing all the things to do with your instrument, all those wells of inspiration will fill up with ideas. And so you're much more likely to have that lovely scenario where the song is circling, just waiting to land when you're ready. So to get good at songwriting, you have to do it. So let's do it.
Do it.
And if you have any questions that we kind of don't cover in the course of the next hour, pop them in the chat and we'll try to make sure that we address them when we get to the end, just in case we miss something that you find really important.
Gillian's already got a cracking question. I really like this question. What do you mean by groove? And it's a really good question. We're going to look at a few different elements of it, but it can be the speed of your playing. It can be the accent you put on the playing. Like, which beat are you really emphasizing? If you were at Bruce's workshop, he talked a bit about the 2 and the 4, that can often make a song roll along a bit more. 1, pa, pa. Whereas if you go pa, your energy's more kind of down. It's like more stampy. Whereas if you want
like
your song to roll 2 and 4, so that's an example of a kind of groove. Where's the emphasis? How fast are you playing? But also what's called the time signature. So that can be like Amazing Grace is 3/4.
Really waltzy. Mull of Kintyre's got that 3/4 rock and rolling, the waltz time. Yeah, so by groove we really mean just what's the energy that's propelling you along. And it can be a slow and gentle lullaby side to side, or like the Midnight Special is that really pumping kind of shuffle.
Yeah, so thanks, Gillian. That's a great question.
And that's the way to find out what the groove is to move, to embody the music.
Cool.
Okay. Now, we like to use our phones to record any ideas that we have. Really good to outsource our memory to another device. So if you're in that position where you've got another device, please look for your voice memos or whatever recording app you use, because it's just handy to not have to memorize everything when it's new. It's really hard to hang on to lots of ideas when they're brand new. And hopefully we'll be throwing lots of ideas around.
The other thing is, if you can get your hands on a bit of blank paper, it doesn't have to be all that big, but a bit of blank paper. At one point we're going to do an exercise where we draw a line.
Do some drawing as well in your songwriting
So if you
workshop.
have got a pen and paper handy, you'll have time to go and get one. But just so you know, that's a thing we'd like to do as well.
Yeah. So Craig's going to talk about rules of engagement.
Well, people often ask, what's the recipe to write a good song? And we do have a funny resource we're going to share afterwards about the recipe of a blues song. But in fact, the rules are not quite the ones you'd expect, I reckon, because they're actually the rules for any creative activity, I think. And one of them is, if you're going to be creative, you've got to play. You've got to let your kind of creative child free. And that means that all judgy talk, all like kind of adult, like, you can't do that, that's instantly going for, oh, that's good or that's bad. All of that, don't even listen to it. It'll be there because Stephen Taverner talks about Mr. Beak, which is like a crow on his shoulder. It's like, that's crap. Oh, yeah, no, don't like that. It's almost impossible to get rid of your inner critic, who might be a bird sitting on your shoulder. But you can just let it talk and just go, I'm glad you said that, Mr. Beak, but this is not your job. I'm being creative right now, so whatever you say doesn't really matter to me. So no judgy talk, because what we want is what's sometimes called a curious mindset, which is if you do something, even if you might go, oh, it's a mistake. Oh, I tried to play to C, but look, I put that on the 2nd fret. I made a mistake. It's a major 7 chord. That's not a mistake. It's a beautiful thing. Listen for the possibilities in what you're doing. What doors of possibilities are opened up? And that's the creative. I think of it as like you've got your creative diamond, and then later on your editor can come along and bring it down into a particular song. But it's much better to do that really broad creative stuff first. No judgy talk. What possibilities are opened up by what I'm doing? That riff we almost played at the start for My Girl. Smokey Robinson was on the bass going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and because he just liked the and as a start, and then the guitarist, I've forgotten his name, great guitarist on a lot of Motown tracks, walked in and he literally just played a pentatonic. He just played a 5-note scale
over the top.
He hadn't even got to his seat yet. He was just checking if his guitar was in tune, and Smokey Robinson went, "That's the riff." And that's how songwriting can work sometimes.
My turn. Okay. So just a last thing about the inner critic. We know that it's there to take care of us. Its job is to make sure we don't get too embarrassed or don't put our foot in it and really mess up. But it's a really good practice to just try and turn the volume down and recognise that it's trying to take care of you, but when you want to be creative, just dial it down so that you can play, because being open to play and just experimenting is what can really propel you along, particularly when you're looking for new things that you want to try. So,
should we get into the groove?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's groove.
Should we do those again or talk it through?
Well, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so we'll do it again. So, Smokey Robinson. Oh, yeah.
Oh, you want to say something else? Go
Oh,
on.
no, that's it. You go. Let's go from the strum. Sorry, I changed the running order. It's a good running order. We should stick with the running order.
Okay, do it then.
Okay, let's just do the strum. Yeah? 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're very familiar with this.
It's the groove of a happy, blissed out person, so in love.
Yeah, and so just listening for the accents. And songs like that I learnt by not counting. I didn't go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. I never thought that. I just listened to it and just listened for the accents. So when you're listening to the radio, hear the accents. And then what mood does it put you in? For me, that's like sunshine on a cloudy day. When it's cold outside. I've got a very warm autumn day in May in Melbourne, apparently. Month of May. Okay.
So you're just describing the mood there.
The mood, yeah, indeed.
Okay. I'm trying to read my notes and know where I am all at the same time. What we're going to do is we're going to choose 2 chords. Can be anything. Obviously, you're going to gravitate towards 2 chords that sound good to your ear, and that's really good. You have to let your taste guide you, and stay open to any, as Craig was saying, possible mistakes that aren't really mistakes. It's just exploration, and have a couple of minutes where you're practicing different kinds of strums or grooves, whatever feels like a nice pattern that you can just go backwards and forwards between the 2 chords that you've chosen. It doesn't have to be what we've been playing, which is just a C and an F, but if you want to just use that, that's fine. So take a couple of minutes. We are not going to make any noise while that's happening so that you can really listen to yourself. If you have trouble coming up with a pattern, try and think of a song that you like that's got a really nice feeling in your body and try and copy that just on 2 chords. I know there's, like we found out before, people with 10 and more who can do lots of different things, but try and really restrict yourself so that you can concentrate on a pattern. So we're going to build a groove pattern. So give yourself maybe 3 minutes.
We are going to use these groove patterns later.
Oh, yes.
So maybe come up with a couple, and if you do, you don't have to, because you should be able to remember them, hopefully, unless you come up with hundreds. But if you do have voice memos, feel free to record it as a voice memo if you've got it and you know how to do that. But if you don't worry, because we can always play it.
Yeah. And if you don't know what lovely sound you magicked up, just record the frets that you're on. Postcode style, so I don't know, 0220 is one of my favourites. Just write them down like that.
And I've remembered what I was supposed to say before, which was Bruce talked about fruits. He was going apple, apple, pineapple, apple, apple, pineapple. You might remember for you and his thing. Feel free to do, and Rachel has helped put me onto this. Feel free to just think of some words as well and use those. So one of my favourites, I reckon. Ring of Fire is I Want a Watermelon. I want a watermelon. It's got a thing in it. I want a watermelon really now.
Okay.
Yeah, but just if you can't think of an accent for something, if you just throw some words at it, pineapple, pineapple, mango, pineapple, that kind of thing. So throw some words at it if you can't think of anything.
Okay, a couple of minutes, and we'll give you a yell when your time's up. So 2 chords.
Okay, I'm seeing some very ready-looking people out in the world now. Great. That's fantastic. And Gillian was just saying that she really loves that C to A minor transition. Isn't that, on the ukulele, isn't that one of the most lovely things? And one finger. Try doing that on a guitar. It's annoying, you get a cramp. That's why the uke's so good. And I was just going to mention, I saw some beautiful picking going on as well. And I tend to pick a lot because I originally learnt guitar. A thing that I learnt from listening to a Song Exploder podcast, which is a podcast about songs, listening to the Mick
Fleetwood Mac?
Yeah, Fleetwood Mac. I think it's Mick Fleetwood. Talking about writing Go Your Own Way, is that sometimes that song has got a lot of guitars and a lot of things going on. Go Your Own Way, if you know and he really wanted to make sure that it worked just by strumming. So it's like, I forgot what key it's in, but loving you isn't the right thing to do. And so he just strummed it to try and get the song to work. So it is sometimes good not to kind of overdo it and add all the fancy bits first, because it actually leaves less space when you're writing the melody and other elements.
He knows this from personal experience.
Yeah,
We're constantly stripping things out of beautiful riffs that Craig makes just so that there's room for a voice.
Yeah, and you can bring it back later in the production, but it's just it's an interesting thing, is that just trying to create constraints can give you space to do creative things later on. So 2 chords and I'm only going to strum, that can be a nice starting point. Yeah.
Right. Well, I hope you've got those stored away somewhere, because we're going to put some other things in your brains now. So we'll need those later, so don't lose them. So I assume that you have come to a songwriting workshop with perhaps a bit of paper somewhere handy, and like it doesn't have to be a fancy bit of paper, because we're just literally going to write some lists. So it can be on the back of your shopping list, whatever. If you've got one handy, just grab it. So,
do you want me to put in the 7?
I can do that.
Oh, you do it? Yeah.
Maybe you can talk about them while I paste them in. So we're going to write this list. We've just decided to choose a topic for you, and we want you to think of a special place. Placemaking's become a real obsession in my thoughts at the moment. So think up a special place, and then we're going to write just like really free form lists of words or short phrases about this special place, and just write as much as you can in 2 minutes. Don't think through grammar or anything like that. Just power down all the thoughts that you can gather about the special place that's special to you.
And Nicki's going to put some prompts in of things to think about, and they are prompts from this book called Writing Better Lyrics by Pat Pattinson. And Pat Pattinson talks about the 7 senses. So Nicki's just put them in, and the 7 senses are sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch, the normal 5. And then there's 2 extra ones, which you don't get too worried about this, but I find them really interesting, which is organic, which is like an awareness of what's happening in your body. Like if you ate too much food, or you're feeling a bit clammy or sweaty or whatever it is.
You had too much sleep. That's a really kind of heavy feeling.
Yeah. And then there's kinesthetic. Like, what does it feel like to do a forward roll? Or what does the water feel like against your skin when you're swimming? The kinesthetic's kind of like the world against your body. The relationship to the world around you.
Think of being on a push bike and the wind is like powering through you.
And don't worry, if that distinction doesn't make any sense, just think about what does it feel like in my body. That's a way of thinking about it. But often when I do lists, I'm very sight-oriented, so I write about stuff that I can see. But just have a think. The lists, the 7 senses are there. Write as much as you can, and then go and have a look in the chat and go, is there any sense that I missed out there? Maybe I should think about that sense.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's it. 2 minutes of solid writing.
And the topic is?
Special place.
Special place.
For you. Go. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. I'm so rude. Sorry.
I know. Once you get the roll, it often takes a couple of minutes to get on a roll.
But we'll let you keep looking at your words, because the next stage is to go through and have a read through your list and really look for the the words that stand out to you, the ones that are most powerful or send you off in an unexpected direction once you go back with your kind of conscious mind dialed up. And so really look for the surprising or the evocative or the unusual, anything that can open up another door. And read those words aloud to yourself and listen for their inherent rhythms or the inherent patterns that they have. Not rhyme necessarily, just the kind of cadence of those words. You do have to read them out loud because that's when they take on another dimension, and ultimately you want to hear them out loud. So take another minute or two to do that.
Yeah,
make sure you mark them clearly, and if there are any that really you have to share, please pop them in the chat, and just let's see what are those words that really spark something for you. And remember, words or short phrases, that's all fine.
And it'd be lovely if you are happy to share, to put some in the chat. I know Rachel wrote a stunningly beautiful song last year that came from an exercise like this with words in the chat. Many of the words are hers, but some of them were because people shared their little diamonds as well. So it's really worthwhile to chuck them in the chat.
Okay, away you go.
Feel free to keep typing in the chat as we speak now, but there's some really beautiful stuff already in the chat. In the Malakuta moonlight, dancing to the starlight, isn't it?
Gorgeous.
Malakuta Moonlight. That's the name of a song straight up, isn't it? It's really, it's very evocative. Breath answers wind.
Love it.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, keep putting in your gems. And while you're doing that, we'll begin to introduce the next exercise. So what
Craig's
we've got
next
now,
bucket.
Yes, maybe bucket's not a great. I don't know.
Treasure chest.
Treasure chest. Yes. So we've got some grooves in our groove bucket. We're beginning to get some lyrics, and I really recommend looking at other people's gems, because often that can spark totally new third gems that are like that's the song that's floating around above us. So we've got some lyrics in our lyrics bucket. We've got some grooves in our groove bucket. And we deliberately said, choose some grooves that feel really nice to strum and then write about your special place, because we're trying to go down a particular mood here. But you don't have to stay there, because contrast is really interesting. But now the bit that I find most difficult, but Nicki doesn't find it as difficult, I think, is we're now going to switch over to melody and harmony making.
Try and fill our melody bucket.
Fill the melody bucket.
Yeah. Now, Craig's a bit misleading. I know people, and in fact, I'm looking at the faces of some people who are very good melody makers, and it's not a skill I have, so I need a bit more of a process for finding melody. I'm really good at working with a melody that someone else has made and either modifying it or harmonizing with it, but I'm much more of a collaborator in that regard. So when it comes to making my own melodies, I really need building blocks to help me find a direction to take. So if you're the kind of person who's really good at melody making, you probably don't need this exercise. Having said that, it's really good at jolting you out of a rut that you might be in if you tend to conjure up the same kinds of melodies each time you head into that territory. So it can be a great way to make something new, make something different, and give you some structure by which to do that. So
I'm going to do. Have you already named what we're doing?
No, I haven't. We're going to do my what I like to call the melody graph making exercise, which is something that I learnt from Eva Popov, who's a very beautiful songwriter, and Eva uses this technique when she's working with groups to help guide the melody creating process, because you can imagine working with a group, it's quite hard to zone in on a particular direction. Cool. And so the graph can help guide everyone in one direction. So are you going to draw something?
Fancy
Here
screen
goes
share.
Craig.
Look at this. This is the latest technology from Zoom. Sorry, you'll have to step across a little bit, Nikki. Look at that. And then, so pitch goes up. So that's the pitch going higher.
Up and down.
And unsurprisingly, time. Can people still see the screen share? Yes.
Yeah,
time
your screen
goes that
share's
way.
working really well, Craig.
Look at that. The wonders of the modern age. And then the trick. Well, the trick. What is? There is no trick.
There's no trick. The
Just
trick is there's no trick.
free form. Just feel a shape and then just draw that shape. And you can use. You could do like I'm going to do, which is what I tend to do. Something that's fairly kind of curvy.
It's a camel.
It's a camel. It's a dromedary, isn't it? 2 humps. But you could have just as easily done something with juts, or it's the line stops and then it starts again. Like the idea is to be playful and free form, but also I guess have a think about just kind of feel in your body something melodious as you're doing it. So
Like interpretive dance for singing.
and what we're going to do using the magic of technology. Oh, I changed computers. I hope it'll work on this computer. It should work. Is we are going to ask you to hold it up, do the same thing. So draw the 2 lines and then draw a squiggly line. And then hold it up to your screen like I'm doing now. And we're going to take a photo of that on our computer and then share with you everyone's shapes.
Yeah.
Because that'll help us with the next thing we're going to do.
Maybe. It's all a big experiment.
Now I've got to check that it's going to work.
Yes. That trick works. All right.
Yes. Actually, we might count you in so that everyone does it at the same time, but thanks,
Yeah.
Kerry. Kerry
Yeah,
wins the
thanks.
prize.
Yeah.
What's the prize? Oh, she gets a melody. You get a free melody today.
Free melody.
Awesome. Margaret gets second prize, which is a free melody. There's a theme here. Courtesy of Pat's music. Okay, is anyone still finishing? I think Laura's and Bridget's still going. Okay, we'll hold them all up now.
Oh,
One,
yeah.
2, 3, and I'm going to take a screenshot. Oh, can you hold ours up? Nikki's just putting ours up. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Kaboom.
Cheese.
Come on, computer.
done?
You can do it. Yeah.
There you go. Nice one.
And I'm just going to quickly screen share them.
Because it's easier to see when you're not holding it in front of your camera.
That's right. Bear with me a second.
Where's it gone?
Yes, that was the bit that I hadn't thought through. Open it. Come on, open.
It's all right. Here it comes. Dun, 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 dun.
Lovely. That's beautiful.
Some are a
isn't it?
little bit easier to see than others, depending on the pen. But
Oh, I think
that's
it's still good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll quickly screen share that. Because this is the fun bit.
Yeah. It's the out of control bit. All right.
Everyone can see it except us at the moment.
That's all right. So, what on earth is Nicki talking about when she talks about the graph? So, now that we have, there's a whole series of prompts there to work from. If you imagine, for those of you who read music, that you're looking at your musical notation and you've done that the dot thing like you do when you're kids and drawn a connecting line through all of your music dots. This gives you the shape of the rise and fall of the pitch of a potential melody. And if you like many things, if you interpret it literally, it's going to be pretty kooky. But if you start from the kooky place and then come back and find something that is starting to sound a bit more like a musical phrase, and it might have some outrageous intervals in that, who knows, that's where we're going to go, is to try to imagine where our musical notes fall on that passage. So I'll give you just a little example of what mine might have sounded like. Well, Craig's
Yeah, and I might do one for Gary's as well, just after you've done.
Oh, you've been inspired by Gary's, haven't
Oh
you?
yeah, just because
Yeah. So the kooky version first, which is...
I'll hold it up. Oh no, you can't see it, should you?
That's all right.
Oh, you can see it on the screen.
Yeah, in the screen share, it's
Yeah.
top left.
Of course.
So it's pretty kooky, and it's the literal version would be or thereabouts. So I'm going to try to make it a bit more melodious and a bit less kooky. Da 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 da. So tapering off. So if I try to repeat that pattern a few times, it will start to find its solid form and become kind of less fragile and less frail. And that's where the phone's very handy. Get that out, sing into that a few times. And the more times you repeat that, the more it will land and stop feeling so kind of fluttery. So you can choose any number of those shapes that folks have popped up there to have a go at. And of course you'll find some are easier than others to give you some shape. Craig's going to have a go at Gary's.
Yeah, and I just want to mention it because Gary's, that to me looks like a chorus. Like straight away it looks like an anthemic chorus. Something like ba da 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 da, something like that. And the reason for that is that they're strong shapes, if that makes sense. There's quite a few songs that'll have, you see where you've got those wobbles, like I can't tell who that is, but is that Kerry? I think
That's
it's Kerry.
Kerry,
Kerry
yeah.
had a nice wobble. There's like a Paul Kelly song.
Yeah.
Or Count on Me if you ever find yourself stuck in verse shapes often have a lot of wobble. But say Count on Me, the chorus is like, you can count on me like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
So they have
More like
more
an
kind
arpeggio.
of strong shapes. So when I look at shapes like this, I often think, oh yeah, that's chorusy, that's versy. Doesn't have to be because you can always muck up the rules. But that's the kind of ear expectation, I think.
Okay. So here's your chance. Get out your phone or whatever it is you're using and just try out a couple. We might not have time to really get into many of them, but maybe choose 2 and see what you come up with.
And start with just vowel sounds like ba da ba ba, but later on you could go start using some of the words. Yeah.
That's right. Eventually we'll graduate to using some of the words, but just for now, ba da ba your way through and see how you go. Okay, couple of minutes.
Okay.
Oh, we've come back to
How to
interrupt
go.
you very
Come back to
rudely again.
interrupt again.
You can see beautiful creative processes unfolding
it's
there.
great.
It's really gratifying to watch. So we're going to kind of up the ante now. You've got all these treasure chests of different ideas and we're going to start bringing them together. So maybe some of you already had a chance to start putting some of the words that you'd selected before into that melody shape. And an observation Craig really wanted to make was that once you start weaving in the words, that might change the shape a little bit of your melody because you're now accommodating different numbers of syllables and different feelings of words, and that might push and pull a little bit against each other. And equally, if you really like the melody you came up with, that might force your words to be a bit different or change the order of them. Or
I mean, a good example is Malakuta Moonlight might have to become Moonlight over Malakuta to fit your melody better, if you know what I mean. Or so you can change the words to fit your melody, or you can change the melody to fit your words.
Yeah, and adding a level of complexity is now to think about the grooves that you put in your treasure chest earlier, and to think about which one has a mood closest to where you're going. And once again, you can go in different directions. You can either think, I had this really great groove earlier that's just sitting there and I want to use that. So now I'm going to mush my melody a little bit to play with it over the top of my groove. So we're going to pull those threads together just to see where it's taking you. And you might find actually the grooves that I made, they belong in a different songwriting session. I have to put them aside and come up with something better. And Craig recommends just noodling. If that's the case, just be very gentle and minimal, and see what you can maybe pull in, just like real cut back elements of those first grooves that you made.
There's quite a few lead singers like Michael Stipe and REM who will just take a backing track from one of the other REM musicians and then just let it kind of noodle away, and then he'll walk around and then he would start going ooh ah, like with a melody graph kind of idea, but just in his head rather than visually. And then he'll start adding words. So he might be looking at a word list and going ooh, and then eventually go, now the words, now it's all coming together. So I find it easier to go get a bit of a groove happening, do some ooh ahs with your melody shape, and then start adding the words. If I try to do them all at once, I find I have a bit of still a bit too hard.
Yep. Yeah, so you might have to go back and listen to what you created before, or maybe that feeling is still quite strong in your body. I often get a groove that won't leave, so everything I play starts sounding a bit the same. So does anyone want those graphs back up again while you're having a play at the next thing?
Yeah, Rachel. Yep,
okay, we'll do that and see how you go. This is the lovely, dirty, messy, mushing everything together time.
Actually, I might say one quick thing before Nicki muses, just that if you're really struggling for notes, you can use your uke to find intervals. I mean, we're both singers, so we're kind of happy to just sing rando notes. But if you see a big, like, just go up a lot of frets if it goes high quickly, or if it's like Carey's one. And then you might find something from that. So sorry, your uke is your friend in finding melody.
I'm loving the chat and all the examples. They're really beautiful. And it looks like Laura might be ready to share something. I don't know how you feel about that, Laura. Craig's going to find how to unmute everybody.
I'm
try not
tempting
to
the
blow
gods
it
of
all
Zoom.
up.
You're now all able to unmute.
That's all right. We have a lovely little group. It seems very manageable compared to the 100 and somewhat on the other channel.
So, Laura,
if you feel ready,
would you
we don't
be
want to
happy
put you on the spot.
share? Can you turn original sound on if it's possible on your machine?
And I do that by going to which button?
Top
The
left.
top left, it might say.
The green button? No.
Oh, no, you might not have the button. That's okay. It'll just sound a little bit wishy-washy, but that's okay.
Oh, sorry, darling. I can't see the button.
Yeah, that's okay. No, that's okay. Just it'll be
Wishy-washy will work well with the song.
Zoom doesn't like music, so it tries to wipe it.
Well, it fades his voice.
But we'll hear your beautiful voice, and that's what.
So isn't this exquisite and painful, everybody, where Nicki and Craig are sharing these really interesting ideas, and we've begun a process of working on a selection of the ideas, and then we keep coming back and getting another gorgeous idea to add into the mix. So I'm about to share something that began when Nicki reflected an idea I'd forgotten I'd shared with you about music being in the air around you, and you've just got to create the opportunity for it to arrive. And then she mentioned that she liked the 0220 postcode, the DAD4, which goes very nicely with the A7 sus4 0200. And then I noticed a whole lot of the words that people had shared included wind. And I live at Malal on Phillip Island. So this is what I've come up with so far. And I was inspired by someone's picture. This was my picture, but I was inspired by someone, I couldn't tell who it was, but it went up and down and then flat. So here it comes, wishy-washy. When you have the time, when you make the space, music all around falls into place. Walk into a world, a wide and special place, where wind and salty air strokes your face. Or ends on the D, 2220.
That was really beautiful, and I was wondering if anyone else wanted to share. Doesn't even have to be a song, it can be a reflection or just where they're up to so far. Is it
I have one.
cool?
Yes.
Go, Kerry.
It's yes, it's a little what's the word for it? Sentimental.
That's all right. Just let Craig spotlight you.
There we go.
Hey.
All right, I'll stand up and try and look professional.
You look creative.
It goes like this. So I got the inspiration from a few of the words that people put in there, and also just trying the two chords, just so taking the C and then adding the A minor but leaving the C behind. Because that lovely sound, and that's what gave me the start for the tune. Yep. So it goes, I can hear you calling me. I can hear you calling me. I can hear you calling out my name. Then it goes, I can see your dark eyes smile. I can see the ties that bind. I can share the wonder of your love.
So good.
Right.
good.
And melody straight up.
Yeah, and did you use your graph as a starting point, or did you choose some other inspiration from the other graphs?
The graph, yeah. I didn't like my first graph, so I amended it for another graph and encompassed someone else's graph into my graph.
And isn't that the way it works, where one thing collides with another thing, pushes you in a direction you weren't quite expecting, and then suddenly you arrive at this place where all kinds of things are starting to zing and tingle together. That's great, Kerry. I wouldn't call that sentimental. I'd call that very moving.
It's about the place where I can't be with my granddaughter.
Yes,
So
yeah. And I think, lots of us have that sense too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thanks for sharing. Very brave. I think we haven't got time for. Might not have time for
We'll skip
another
on,
share.
But we have got a chance for sharing later. So
Yes.
there will
Well,
be time
hopefully.
for-
We've got about 10 minutes.
Oh, 10 minutes. Okay.
So, do you want to say your thing?
yeah, I might.
Craig gets really frustrated because we get so caught up in
Doing.
in the doing and in listening to great stuff that people come up with, that he never gets to say this thing. So go.
Well, it's a couple of things. So just what comes next? Once you've got groove, melody, and lyric, the one I
Any
struggle with
words
as
at
well.
all?
Then how do you unfold this song? So what you've seen is a couple of nuggets of beautiful songs. In fact, they're already quite well developed, Laura and Kerry's ones. But I imagine if you're anything like me, you've probably got one line and a bit of a groove happening, but you're not quite sure where it's going to go. So I was going to talk a little bit about what I call unfolding the song, because I think songwriting is like watching a vase emerge from a lump of clay. It's not that you kind of hack at it. You've got to let the clay speak to you about what kind of vase it wants to be. And so songwriting is a form of storytelling. It kind of can't help but be. Even songs that like Elton John's
Crocodile Rock?
it's got one line in it and
No.
it's on the piano.
Oh, Song for Guy.
Song for Guy. It doesn't have a lot of lines, yet it still is a story. Just you can't help but hear the story in it.
Yeah.
So often there's a conversation going on. Wherever you've got storytelling, you've got kind of characters in relationships. So something as simple as a boom, 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 down, 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 down. The guitar's having a conversation with the singer. So you'll often find conversations happening in songs. And that's a nice way to think of unfolding the song. Are there things in relationship, like a singer and their instrument, or a person and the place they're in? Just thinking about that. And then that also goes to choosing which point of view to take in a song can be important. I've written songs that were all about I, and then turned them into I think there was one that became a we, and there's been other ones that have been all you, and just changing the pronouns, so changing the point of view of the song. My favourite example of this is Jundamara Pigeon by Paul Kelly, where he's writing a song about an amazing Aboriginal tracker who had this incredible life, but he writes the song rather than trying to take the voice of an Aboriginal person. What he does is write the song as one of the Irish troopers who's trying to catch him, and so you never hear Jundamara speak throughout the whole song. The song's just the tracker getting more and more frustrated that Jundamara keeps getting away, and
also kind of admiring how clever this person is at evading them, and being the kind of the rebel taking care of his people.
Yeah, so choosing a point of view that kind of makes the story work can be really important. And that can happen later in the song. You can write the whole song about your special place and then later go, oh, if I wrote this from the point of view of my childhood self, or the point of view of my mother or some other person involved, then that can suddenly add a certain kind of spark and poignancy and kind of nuance to the song, if that makes sense. And then other things I'm going to quickly go through, probably too quickly, are a lot of these things are a bit kind of Pat Pattinson, but it's always great to show and not tell in a song. So what's a good example of that? Maybe we'll come back to that later. Yeah, I'll come back to that later. But your palette for doing this storytelling is, as you would have heard with Carey's, you get this... Oh no, Laura's something else. You get this lovely tension and release with some chords. And so tension and release is something that can happen a lot in songs. And it can happen harmonically by having chords that aren't quite finished and then replaced by a chord that's and so you have to learn a little bit of theory for that, which is annoying. But you can do tension and release in all sorts of ways with just space, like long rests and things like that. And I think really good songs, have a listen for when you like a song. There's a fair chance it's going to build up a bit of tension and then release it in a really nice way. And then the thing I really want to say is that there's this thing that Pat Pattinson calls prosody or prosody in his American accent, but his definition is not quite the original definition, but it's when all the elements of a song, the melody, the groove, and the lyric, and the structure all work together to say the same thing. That everything's rowing in the same direction is how I think of it. So that I've got sunshine on a cloudy day. I'm going to talk about rhyme scheme in a minute. When it's cold outside, I got the month of May. That song has a very simple rhyme scheme. It's got a really lovely laid-back groove. And the lyrics themselves are very kind of sunny and laid-back and groovy. And so everything's rowing in the same direction. And that's one of the things that I call kind of a holy grail. But another thing is when the audience gets to complete the meaning. So with that song, we all can complete that song in our own minds. What does sunshine on a cloudy day mean for me? What do all those lyrics mean for me? So not trying to tell someone what the song should mean, but rather to let the audience members complete the song in their own way. That can be a really powerful thing. That was my rant about
I'm glad you finally got to have it. So, I could really kind of go on all day, but just finish, I think, with a thought about rhyming. Craig's going to sing the greatest love song ever written.
Oh, now I've got to sing it now.
Yes, and
it's too hard to play.
I'm going to put the lyrics in the chat for you to think on.
Yeah.
Go on.
And so this is about rhyme schemes. Some songs you might think have rhyme, and they don't rhyme at all. And this is an example of one. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride and make it easier Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be.
You're not going to cry,
I could. There's a tiny little rhyme in there between inside and pride. But if you look at, and that's a kind of internal rhyme, I think, within a line. But the rhyme scheme's pretty much rando, completely rando, compared to My Girl, which is, I guess you'd say what would make me feel this way, like everything's kind of rhyming.
Neat.
It just goes to show that you don't have to rhyme if you don't need to.
To make a powerful, powerful song.
Yeah. An internal rhyme, I like. Rappers do this all the time, where they'll find some rhyme and kind of hit you with some staccato, give them, give them a sense, no, what's the line before that? All the beauty they possess inside, give them a sense of pride, make it easier. Like, it just gives you a little hook to kind of, as a listener, to grab on.
It's like getting a run-up, isn't it?
Yeah. And then, I forgot what key that's in. What's Bye Bye Lovin'?
It's probably in D or something.
Another example is you can rhyme things across verses or across stanzas. So a stanza is just a bunch of lines that make up a stanza. That's, make up a little section. So an example, Bye Bye Love, bye hopes, bye bye love, bye bye happiness, hello loneliness, think I'm gonna cry, oops, bye bye love, bye bye sweet caress, hello emptiness, think I'm gonna die.
Z-code that stuff.
The cry and the die, it's very sad. They rhyme across stanzas, and our ears are very excited by that. When we hear, so the rhyme pattern is bye bye love, and then it's 2 lines that rhyme, bye bye happiness, loneliness. I think I'm gonna cry. Doesn't rhyme with anything so far. And then it goes bye bye love. Oh yeah, I've got a pattern here. Bye bye sweet caress. Ooh, caress happiness. Hello emptiness, emptiness loneliness. Getting what's going on here. And everyone in the room is now, I bet the next line ends with a rhyme with cry. That's how we project what the rhyme scheme is going to be, generally. And sometimes you can choose not to rhyme on that word, and that word will stick out in a really interesting way.
It will shock you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stop you there because we're at time, and there's still things that I kind of want to say. Obviously, we've taken you into this place, and now we're abandoning you to do what you will with it, but not completely abandoning. We would love to invite you to come back and have another chat with us after a week when things have settled and maybe you've had a chance to play your song and think about it a little bit more and maybe come up with some more words and think, why didn't I say that at the time? So I'm going to find my document, which is like a summary of what we've been talking about, and I'm going to drop it in the chat. And there's an invitation there to come back, say in a week. I don't have a date or anything. If you want to have another chat with us about how you're going, maybe email us. The email's going to be in that notes that I'm going to pop up now, and let's talk more about it. So don't feel like we've completely abandoned you. We do want to hear kind of what next for the gems that you've collected today to pop in your treasure chest.